Sport is sport. U.S. Olympic gold medalist Alysa Liu backs Eileen Gu's choice to compete for China. U.S. Olympic figure skating champion Alysa Liu has spoken out regarding the controversy over American-born skier Eileen Gu's decision to compete for China at the Winter Olympics. In an interview with the New York Times, Liu, who grew up in the Bay Area alongside Gu, defended her fellow athlete. "People are hypocritical for shaming her for representing China," Liu said, noting Gu's family ties to China and calling criticism over her choice unfair. Gu, who won 2 silver medals and 1 gold in freeskiing for China, faced global scrutiny throughout the Games. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance also weighed in, expressing hope that American-born athletes would compete for the United States. Gu responded by saying she felt like a punching bag for a certain strand of American politics, attributing much of the backlash to negative views of China and her own success. Both athletes, daughters of Chinese immigrants, have drawn comparisons on social media. Liu, whose father fled China after the Tiananmen Square protests, made history as the first American to win Olympic gold in women's individual figure skating since 2002. Despite the heated debate, Liu emphasized that sport is sport and athletes should compete where they find opportunity. Sport is sport. Alysa Liu, Eileen Gu, and the meaning of global identity in modern athletics. The Olympic Games have always been more than a sporting competition. They are a global stage where athletes become symbols of their nations, their cultures, and sometimes even political ideologies. Yet, beneath the flags and national anthems lies a deeper truth. Sport is fundamentally human. It is about passion, dedication, and the universal desire to push the limits of what the body and mind can achieve. This truth resurfaced vividly when U.S. Olympic figure skating champion Alysa Liu publicly supported fellow athlete Eileen Gu, who chose to represent China rather than the United States in international competitions. Liu's simple yet powerful message, essentially that sport is sport, challenged the heated debate surrounding nationality, loyalty, and identity in the Olympic world. Their story reveals a broader conversation about globalization, cultural identity, and the evolving nature of international sports. 2 champions, 2 paths. At first glance, Alysa Liu and Eileen Gu appear strikingly similar. Both were born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. Both have Chinese heritage, and both rose to prominence as teenage prodigies in winter sports. Liu stunned the world when she became one of the brightest stars in figure skating, eventually winning Olympic gold and marking the first American women's figure skating victory in more than 2 decades. Gu, meanwhile, emerged as a freestyle skiing phenomenon. Competing in events such as halfpipe and slopestyle, she quickly became the most decorated freestyle skier in Olympic history. Yet despite their shared roots, the 2 athletes made different decisions about national representation. Liu chose to compete for the United States, while Gu decided to represent China, her mother's homeland, beginning in 2019. This divergence turned them into symbols of a global debate. The controversy surrounding Eileen Gu. When Eileen Gu announced she would compete for China, reactions were immediate and intense. Some praised her decision as a celebration of cultural heritage. Others criticized her, questioning her loyalty to the country where she was born and raised. The criticism intensified after Gu's Olympic success, when she won multiple medals and became one of the most recognizable faces in winter sports. For many critics, the issue was political. The rivalry between the United States and China has spilled into nearly every arena: technology, trade, and increasingly sports. As a result, Gu's decision was interpreted not just as a personal choice but as a symbolic act in a geopolitical competition. But Gu consistently explained that her motivation was different. She said she wanted to inspire young athletes in China and help develop the sport there. From her perspective, skiing for China was not a rejection of America. It was an opportunity to broaden the impact of her sport. Alysa Liu's response, a voice of sportsmanship. Amid the controversy, Alysa Liu's response stood out for its simplicity and humanity. Rather than fueling the debate, Liu defended Gu and criticized the backlash. She pointed out that both athletes share Chinese heritage and suggested that the criticism reflected hypocrisy in how people view identity and immigration. In essence, Liu reminded the world that athletes are individuals, not political instruments. Her message echoed a core principle of the Olympic spirit: respect for athletes regardless of nationality. Liu's support also highlighted something deeper: friendship and solidarity between competitors. Despite representing different countries, Liu and Jiu had known each other since their teenage years. They grew up in similar communities and understood the pressures of elite sport in ways few others could. For Liu, defending Jiu was not just about politics. It was about fairness, identity in a globalized world. The debate surrounding Gu's decision reflects a larger question. What does nationality mean in the modern world? In previous generations, athletes typically represented the country where they were born. But globalization has blurred those lines. Many athletes today have multiple cultural identities. They may be born in one country, train in another, and have family roots in a third. For Jiu, the choice was deeply personal. She has often described herself as both American and Chinese, depending on where she is in the world. This dual identity is increasingly common among young people growing up in multicultural societies. Yet public discourse often demands a clear choice, one flag or the other. The pressure to pick a side reveals how society still struggles with complex identities. The political shadow over sport. Sports and politics have always been intertwined. From Cold War Olympic boycotts to debates over athlete protests, the playing field often reflects global tensions. In the case of Liu and Jiu, the political dimension is impossible to ignore. The United States and China are the two most powerful economies in the world, and their rivalry influences international narratives. When athletes with ties to both countries achieve success, they inevitably become symbols in that rivalry. But Liu's response challenges that framework. By emphasizing sportsmanship over nationalism, she rejects the idea that athletes must serve as political representatives. Instead, she reminds us that they are simply people pursuing excellence in their chosen field. Friendship beyond flags. One of the most powerful aspects of the Liu-Jiu story is the human connection between the two athletes. Despite competing for different countries, they share a bond rooted in shared experiences. They both understand the sacrifices required to reach the Olympic level, the early mornings, the relentless training, and the constant pressure to perform. This shared journey transcends nationality. In a world often divided by politics and ideology, friendships like theirs offer a glimpse of what the Olympic spirit is meant to represent: unity through sport.